For my favorite brain part, I chose the anterior cingulate cortex. I will be referring to it as the ACC, so I don't have to continuously say anterior cingulate cortex. Okay, so some basic information about the ACC is that it is directly behind the frontal lobe, and it is part of the limbic system. So it is therefore a limbic structure. You might be asking, okay, what exactly is the limbic system? Well, the limbic system is primarily responsible for behavioral and emotional responses to stimuli. So some other um, limbic structures would be the amygdala and the orbitofrontal cortex, and these are connected actually to the ACC by connective tissues. So some of its functions is that it is pretty much critical for daily interactions, and most of its functions are used throughout the day. So the most, I guess, used function I would say from day to day would be that it regulates responses to stimuli by evaluating consequences of behavior. So this primarily means that, like, let's say you're riding a bike, right, and you're a kid, or you're just a normal adult and you're riding a bike, and it's winter, and you're on top of this really big hill, but this hill had a lot of snow that then melted because it like was 35, 36 degrees. The next day it's 30 or like 29, 28, and it freezes, right? Well, if you have a properly working ACC, you are not going to go down that hill because you could possibly get injured. You'll be like, that's probably not a smart idea. But let's say you have lesions on it, or maybe you're really young and hasn't fully developed. You're going to go down that hill. You might get injured. You might be okay. It does this by processing information from our eyes from a bottom up and top down approach. And then it is also responsible for a multitude of other functions. So, like emotional expression, and also being able to read people's emotional responses to things. So, it's good at reading like body language from our eyes, processing things. And then attention allocation. So, where exactly you're putting your attention in things. And then mood regulation, which also goes along with the emotional expression and, being able to read emotional situations. Also, it's also good at emotional responses to pain, regulation of aggressive behavior, communication, and some of the other ones that is on the graphic on the right. It has also been shown to have some impact in the area of processing fear memory. Okay, so what exactly would happen if you had some sort of trauma to your ACC? So, like lesions. So, it has been shown that if you lesions to the ACC, that it is shown to contribute to an inability to detect errors, emotional instability, and then a kinetic mutism. I didn't know what a kinetic mutism was till now. It's pretty much a neurological disorder where a person who is like stuck in a coma but is pretty much conscious and awake, but they don't move nor speak, and they don't have like the desire or drive for thirst or hunger. So they sort of just sit there like living, but they don't talk. They have no desire or goals, and or if they do, they can't voice it. So they're just like sitting there. It's also been linked to the flat effect. The flat effect is primarily where individuals don't have very strong emotions and they seem like sort of just sitting there. Like they don't get really upset. They don't really sad. They don't get really happy. Like none of that. They just sit there. And then even shown for a lack of empathy. This is primarily because the lack of empathy comes from the fact that you can't read other people's responses to things. So like if someone's going through something, your body and your brain, your ACC is no longer working the way it should. It can't process what somebody is doing, so it doesn't know how to react appropriately. And then also ACC lesions has also makes it hard to quickly and accurately complete the Stroop test. So the Stroop effect pretty much is a test where you have to read a bunch of words, but not just the actual like words themselves. It is the font color. So you know how the blue is actually blue on this graphic here. So let's say on the actual test, it would be like orange instead. You would read orange, and then the orange would be red. It'd be like orange red. The ACC, when it is damaged, it doesn't allow us to read information as well. So you'll have a hard time distinguishing the difference. So you'll just be sitting there, and you won't really be able to complete it accurately. So the treatment for this, on if you were to have some sort of damaged lesion, there's two pretty good options, but they are really the only options. You could do cognitive behavioral therapy, which will help people relearn how to express themselves emotionally. Also helps them learn how to use strategies to minimize poor decision making because you don't naturally have that ability anymore. You have to go to therapy, you have to relearn it and all that. Also, speech therapy has been shown to help people learn how to voice their feelings, how they're feeling inside, because you might have these feelings in your head, but you don't know how to voice them to people. You also don't know how to read people. You have to relearn all of those very tricky things. And then there's also no medication to help specifically with ACC, but there are medications to help with some of the symptoms, and these symptoms usually overlap with like ADD and such. The primarily like reason why I chose this part of the brain was that it's pretty much used in everything. You are constantly throughout the day looking at specific situations and trying to decide whether or not this outcome is worth whatever behavior you're going to take. And that's why I chose it, because I think it's pretty much used in almost every situation. But yeah, that's the end of my favorite brain part presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't bore you too much. But yeah,